Hey guys, welcome to our Deeper Insights. So we're going to be exploring this week's weekly insight, this week's Psycard in a lot deeper nature. Kind of really see what more information we can pull out of it, see what goals in there. What I love to do is always to do the deeper insight the day after, the morning after this Psycard. That way we can see what more information percolates overnight, see what else kind of stirs up. So last night's Psycard in our weekly insights was the will card. I remember kind of turning this card over and just feeling a whole lot of information flood towards me. But what was very interesting, which is why I love kind of sleeping on it and allowing it to almost kind of stir up and percolate overnight, which is why I always try to kind of do the deeper insight on the morning after, is that I kind of woke up, I'm there within my awareness was this really profound quote, and I believe it goes along the lines of something like this: that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, expecting a different outcome. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results and a different outcome. And I believe that it was Albert Einstein that wrote that quote, and what a profound quote that is. It speaks volumes. So if we kind of look at the will, and I remember kind of looking at that and just getting this real strong impression of patterns and cycles. And if we look at that quote, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results and a different outcome. It's really kind of profound in itself. Quite often our lives move within patterns and cycles. One of the things that really kind of struck a chord this morning and last night when we done the weekly insight, the live event, was that quite often we have an original wound. Okay, so there's a traumatic event behind us, which the innate call the original wound. Then what happens is that often just kind of repeats itself in another form, in another guise, with other kind of characters, with other people within your life that come into your life or a part of your life. And what it does is it repeats itself in different forms, different ways and different guises, but yet the wound is hugely similar. So what you've got is a pattern, and what that is it's calling to be healed, it's calling to be transformed, it's calling to be understood, it's calling to be learnt from. And until we kind of grasp that healing, or grasp that teaching, or grasp that learning, until we kind of transform it and make peace with it, it just crops up time and time and time again. If you kind of take a moment right now and you look at where you are, have a look behind you. Is there a similar theme? Within your challenges right now, is there a similar theme? As it cropped up before, I can pretty much kind of guarantee you there's going to be a thread there, and that thread goes back, and it is trying to understand what it's trying to teach us. Why is it showing up? What is the pattern? What is the cycle? I think that they run and they repeat themselves, and I think that in life, I think that human nature, we're experts at absolutely tripping ourselves up. We really are. So sometimes it's about trying to identify those kind of patterns that are running within our lives. You may change so much of the outer circumstances, but the inner, if it's not changing and transforming, then it's all going to kind of just spill out and affect the same. It's going to be the same. Quite often people go, I'm going to change my job, I'm going to change my car, I'm going to change my home, I'm going to change my relationship, and then everything could be different. But unless we make those inner changes, it all turns out to be very much the same. So take a moment now and kind of have a look behind you. Is there a reoccurring pattern? I kind of, remember last night, this kind of real awareness coming through the card, and this kind of message that, in fact, in order to figure out what we truly want, sometimes, we have to experience what we don't want. Okay, so for us to truly know what we want, sometimes we need to experience what we don't want. Then we have the contrast. So if you're not sure of what you want, identify what you don't want. That's probably one of the best places to start. And I think there's so much kind of truth and so much kind of gold that can be taken from that, and actually that's quite simple, and it also means that it becomes quite straightforward, because sometimes we can be just really overwhelmed, with some of the changes we need to make, and quite often what we tend to do is we go, I don't know what to do. And I think that in truth, deep down inside, we know exactly what to do, but it's scary to make change at that level. We're fearful of making change at that level because there's a part of us that says, oh no, that's the unknown, even though where I am may be painful and uncomfortable, it's known. It then translates as to being safe, so we don't make that change at that level because we don't know, and therefore that becomes to us overwhelming and fearful. And then we say, oh, I don't know what to do. In fact, we do, but what we're saying to ourselves, I'm afraid, so therefore I just kind of translate it into I don't know. What we need to try to do is say to ourselves, you know what, I know I need to make this change, but I'm shit scared of doing it, and therefore I'm finding it really hard. Therefore I'm finding it really challenging to make change at that level. But it is about trying to find the courage to have that kind of honest conversation with ourselves. So what we do is we hold on to where we are rather than changing it, because you know how to predict where you are. You know how to predict that kind of current reality where you find yourself. It may be uncomfortable and it may be painful, but it's safe. And with that, belief of your current situation, the subconscious belief is that if I make that change, then it actually might be worse. The fear in there says to you, oh God, what if it's worse than what I'm currently experiencing? So we don't move, so we stay locked into that cycle. We build up those kind of walls of resistance to that change, and then we kind of live within that pattern or that cycle. The thing to try to also, another thing that come up from the card is to understand to not allow your struggle to become your identity. One thing that I've learned through this life, some of you know the story and my experience that I had to learn to walk again, and I was told that I'd end up in a wheelchair and all this kind of resistance, and I kind of made the choice to not allow that to define me. I was not going to allow that challenge to define me, and I kind of started to look at it very, very differently. And one of the things that at the time, I was encouraged to do, because it was a rare form of arthritis that kicks the daylights out of you, is I was encouraged to kind of go to an arthritis support group, and I did 1 or 2 times, and I thought, gosh, no, that's not for me, because what I found was that everybody was kind of using the label of where they found themselves to almost like identify who they were. So it's like they become it. And for me, I was looking to kind of see what was possible rather than what was impossible, because everything was about it's not impossible, and it kind of become a comfort blanket rather than not accepting it and saying, do you know what, I'm not going to allow this to define me. I'm going to move outside of this, say 1 or 2 times, and that was enough for me. It actually made me feel worse, not better. So, don't let your struggle become your identity, okay? And the other thing, that I really got from this card last night is that we all have kind of these patterns and almost like biorhythms, and we need to try to understand them to then to take kind of full advantage of them. I think that nowadays we live in a world where it seems to move at such speed, it's almost like, back-breaking speed, everything's moving so fast. There's so much demand on their time, so much demand on their attention, we're constantly moving between all the things we seem to have to do and all the things that we want to do. And I often say, and I hear the innate saying, we're not just designed to go around in circles, wake up, move through the day, go to sleep, repeat, it's there's more goodness in there. And I kind of get a feeling that where we are now in time and the energy of now currently is that there's a desire for connection. If we kind of look, some of the things that I was sharing last night is that I heard someone say in the last week that they have over 500 friends, and my instant response was to laugh, because I heard inwardly, if it be my deeper self or it be the innate, how ridiculous is that? Because the reply that come was, I bet you had a huge table at Christmas, and it is true. Is that what we're looking for is a deeper connection, a richer connection. Something that has substance, something that has foundation. So I think that we are all kind of seeking that kind of connection. If you look at that person that said they have 500 friends, I'm pretty damn sure that so many of them know that person's profile picture, but do they really know who they are, what they're about, what makes them tick, what is their deeper, profound values that they hold so dearly and so close to? I think that we're moving through this kind of sense of looking for, and kind of we have this desire for this deeper connection, yet at the same time we're looking for solitude, all in the same breath, and that can kind of be at times quite confusing. Just maybe the deeper teaching is balance, and it's something for me I've had to learn and still continue to grasp even deeper. My first solid teaching for this balance was moving between the worlds. Living a life of physicality and everyday normality, i.e. doing the washing up, the chores, tidying up, taking the rubbish out, and 10 minutes later finding myself consulting with the innate and having the most profound conversation with a client, a foot literally in each world. I can't be completely a part of that world, and there are times where I need to kind of move gently away from this world to be able to kind of deliver the work I do. To deliver the work I do, I have to have a foothold in each world, and I think that's really, really important. That balance is really being called for at this time. It's all about trying to move into that balance, and those polarities are almost becoming kind of quite strong, and what it's doing is trying to call us into a space of balance. I think the bottom line is, something else to consider that come up from the card is that, if we start to move away from those things and we start to learn those things that are kind of repeating themselves, and as we call them into healing, they begin to kind of almost, kind of dissolve, and they come to an end. People don't like, they find those kind of endings quite challenging. You know, the way that Spirit often say it and put it is sometimes we need to move into the void. The area and the space that, you know, transformation happens, you know, but the thing is, there's no such thing as an empty space. Okay, it feels empty, but yet it can be full. You know, there's no such thing as a complete void as such. You know, when you let go of one thing, you simply really do make room for something new, something even better to enter. You know, sometimes, you know, spirits say when things feel as if they're falling apart, just maybe they're falling into place. It is safe to let go, because what is on the other side potentially could be so much better. Your future can be greater than your past. There you go, guys. Here's this week's deeper insight, the Will card. I'll see you all very soon.